Hello, everybody. Are you ready for a scary story? Today's story is I should have not played Randonautica. Let's begin. Hello, everybody. My name is Francis. And the story I'm about to tell you, well, is the reason why I don't play this stupid game anymore. Randonautica. Don't download it. It's a horrible game. So, back in 2020, it was so back June 9th, 2020, I downloaded the Randonautica app because I saw people on YouTube playing it and they kept saying, "Oh, it took me here, it took me there." One person found a dead body, I think. And I and my stupid self was thinking, "Oh, let me play this game that someone played blah, 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 blah. Let me play this game that someone else who played this game found a dead body." That's a smart thing to do. Also, this was during COVID in 2020, and I had no job. I was collecting unemployment, so I was bored. Okay, I was bored. I was just sitting in my apartment, bored, so I decided to do something stupid. We all been there doing something stupid when you're bored. So I downloaded the game on June 9th, 2020. Now when I played it for a couple weeks, but nothing happened. The app just Randonautica just kept taking me to restaurants and gyms. It was like trying to tell me to eat and lose weight. It took me to a Crystals one time. And if you don't live in the southern states, Crystals is just White Castle, and they make delicious small hamburgers. They're good, but they will give you diarrhea. So, pros and cons when you eat at Crystals. Good burgers, upset stomach. But we're not here to talk about Crystals. We're here to talk about Randonautica. So I was like, you know what? Let me stop playing Randonautica because it's not taking me anywhere fun. Just restaurants and gyms. Don't know why. So I stopped playing for a while. You know. Um, I got another job as I got another job cooking for somebody at a old folks home and stuff. I had to wear a mask and all that because it was COVID season. So I got another job. So working, not being bored anymore. I had a day off. Uh, November 5th. So basically at the end of 2020. 2020 was ending. It was November 5th. Only one more month, a couple days, whatever. Doesn't matter. So it was November 5th, 2020. Uh so the night before that night, I fell asleep. I fell asleep pretty early, to be honest. I fell asleep at 8 o'clock for some reason. Don't know. Never felt so I had 2 days off. I had November 4th and 5th off. So, I just stayed at home, not doing nothing. Went for a walk around the neighborhood, came back, fell asleep. Came back to the house, watched some TV. The usual things you do when you have 2 days off. You don't really want to do anything. So it's 8 o'clock. I fall asleep on the couch. I wake up, still on the couch. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning on the 5th of November. I was like, and I even made a joke because I love the movie V for Vendetta. I was like, the 5th of November. When I woke up, I was like, I looked at my clock. I was like, oh, it's November 5th. This is my last day off. Fell asleep early, woke up early. So I decided to go take a shower, do my morning routine since it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I got all that done in an hour. I was like, oh, it's only 6 o'clock. What the hell? I was like, my shower didn't take long, brushing my teeth, doing my morning business. Don't need to talk about that. So I start watching TV, look at the clock. I see November 5th again. I was like, 5th of November. Because I'm a fan of I'm a fan of V for Vendetta, okay? I like that little, the 5th of November. I like it. I like that saying. That's probably not even the saying. I'm probably getting it wrong, but who cares? Let me get back to the story. I look at the clock. I was like, oh my God, it is only 9:01. It is only 9:01. Time is going by like a snail. I was like, I am bored out my mind. So I look at my phone, I'm looking at my apps, and I realize I still have the Randonautica app. So I click on it. This is where I made my dumb mistake. I clicked on the app again. I should have just deleted it. No, I clicked on it. I start saying things out loud like, oh, take me to a place that has mildew. Take me to the place that has an ash like smell, like an ashtray. So mildew, mold, ash. Well, it popped up a location, a house that's only 25 minutes away from me. Yes, yes. So location popped up. I googled the location. It was a house. So I decided to go to the location. That was dumbass mistake 2. Okay. So also uh so I cut off the TV. I had the location now of this area, of this house that I went. Now I did the smart thing. I did Google the location, and all the street view showed was a dirt path leading up to a house. I saw it in the Google image. So I was smart with that one, okay? When I played Randonautica, I always Googled the locations just in case. Don't want to end up somewhere scary. I was wrong. I should have just deleted the app and just continued watching TV. But I didn't. I decided to be stupid, get in my car, and drive 25 minutes to this location. Now, when you live in the country, when you live in the southern states, nothing is really 25 minutes away. It was more like 30 minutes away. So I get to the area. The GPS said, okay, go up the dirt path and your destination will be right in front of you. I should have said, let me just turn around and go home. But I didn't. I went up the dirt path. I got to the house. Beautiful house. It had y'all know how the house from uh the house from Yellowstone looked? That's kind of how it looked. It had a beautiful deck. It just looked abandoned. So I get out the car. Well, shouldn't have got out the car. I get out the car. Also, my name is Francis, by the way. Whoever's listening to the story. So I get out the car. I start to walk up to the house. Also, it's bright. It is. The sun is out. It's bright and shiny. I can see everything. So the house is up a dirt road in this big clearing, just by itself. Just one house, a spooky ass house. When I finish the story, you gonna understand why it was a spooky house. My dumb ass should have just left, but I didn't. I decided to stay. So I'm walking up to the house. That's when I get nervous. You ever got scared and have you ever got so scared that you feel like you gotta vomit and poop at the same time? That's how I felt. I was scared. Something was telling me, do not walk up those steps. Go back to your car. I listened, kind of. So, okay, before I continue the story, I have two best friends. One of my best friends is named Derek. He's white. And the other one is named Christopher. He's black. They met. I was friends with Christopher first. And then later on, I met Derek. Christopher and Derek met at the police academy. Christopher and Derek are both detectives now. They're both detectives. Christopher and Derek became best friends because Derek is white with a black name, and Christopher is black with a very white name. So Christopher is black and Derek is white. And I'm Francis. I'm mixed. So get that out of the way right now. So I called Chris and he was with Derek. I said, I did something stupid, y'all. He was like, what did you do? I was like, can y'all come to this location I'm at? I found this abandoned house. I was playing the game Randonautica. They both start laughing. I hear Derek say, you do know that you're only half white, okay? Apparently your half white side took over today and decided to make you do something crazy and look for something scary. And then Chris said, he was like, you want me to bring some potato salad too, since you're being all white today? I was like, hey man, don't be that way. Look, I was just curious. And I hear Derek say, that's what every white character in movies always say. They were curious. And then they get their ass eaten by a zombie. And then Chris said, okay, we'll be right there. And they hang up. A couple minutes go, like 30 minutes go past. I'm sitting in the car, just looking at, and I see in my rear view mirror, or passenger side mirror, whatever you want to call it, I see Derek and Chris pulling up. Derek and Chris pull up. They get out of the car. They're still making fun of me. And it was like, what did your half white self get you into today? I said, nothing. It got me something scary. I just got nervous with this house. And since y'all two are detectives, I was wondering y'all can look at it. They was like, okay, we're gonna go look at it. But you stay right here. Okay, it was like, okay, little baby, you stay right here. They was making fun of me. They was like, Francis, you're a dumbass. Okay, you know every white character dies in movies because they get curious. You should know this. Okay, your other half should have told you, do not trust your white half and follow the noise. So they were still making fun of me. So Derek and Chris, they go and they had their guns on them. So they had their guns on them. They're walking up to the house. They open the door. I see them go in. I see Chris and Derek go into the house. So I'm outside waiting. Like good couple minutes go past. I'm still outside waiting. Chris and Derek come out of the house. They come right up to me. They're not playing anymore. They're not making jokes. Chris looks at me and says, Francis, this is when it got serious. I have never seen. I know the detectives. I know they get serious when they're at work, but when they're with me and their family, they're fun. Chris is married, has a daughter. Derek is married, has two sons, has two babies, and I'm single. I have no one. My name is Francis. If anybody wants to hook up. So Chris looks at me. He says, Francis, sit in the passenger side of your car. Okay. I said, what's going on? He said, Francis. He looked at me and said, Francis, I want you to shut the fuck up and go sit in your car. I said, what the heck? Shut up and go sit in the car. I know you had nothing to do. What happened? I know you had nothing to do on what happened in that house. I didn't say anything. After he said, okay, I didn't say. I went and I sat in the car. I see Francis. I see not me. I see Derek pull out a radio, like go to his car and like have this like radio thing and call for crime scene investigators. This is what he did. He told me later he called for crime scene investigators, more cops, another detective. They all came out there because whatever happened in that house, I found. So, well, technically I didn't find. Chris and Derek found it, but since I stumbled across this thing that happened there, they had to ask me questions. So another detective comes out. Her name was Sarah. She comes up to me. She's like, okay, Derek and Chris just told me what happened. You need to tell me what also happened. And why did you come here today? What led up to you coming here? Me, I am scared. I'm thinking, did I did I come to something that I shouldn't have come to? And she said, technically, and I asked her, did I come to a house that I shouldn't have been at? She said, yes, you shouldn't have been here. But it's a good thing you came here, and I want to know why. I said, okay, I was playing Randonautica. She said, the app game? I said, yes, because she knew what it was. I said, and it brought me to this location because I kept saying, oh, I want to find something with mold, ash, and, things that stink. Like an ashtray or laundry you left in the washing machine too long and it has that mildew smell. No one likes that. And I tell her everything. And she said, okay, you can get back in your car and Derek and Chris will let you go. So Derek and Chris come back over and they tell me. So like hours go by. Derek and Chris finally come back over and tell me. They said, so now I'm going to be from the point of view of Derek and Chris. So Chris and Derek. This is what Chris and Derek told me at the car after everything was settled and everything was taken care of. They said, okay, we're going to tell you what happened and then we're going to tell you what we saw in there. You can leave. So Chris went in first and then Derek went in after Chris. So Derek and Chris was walking into the house. They checked everything. They checked the upstairs. It's a 5-bedroom house. So all the rooms are empty. The house was completely empty. Except Chris noticed something. At the corner of his eye, he noticed a door. Now, if you first glance, so it was a wall. If you first glance at the wall, doesn't look like anything. But he noticed something weird about this wall. He noticed that this wall did not connect to the hallway type of thing. So it was like a wall, and he was like, so he went up to it. Derek said, what are you doing? Chris. No, Derek goes up to so Derek noticed the wall. He goes up to it, and he pushes the wall, and Chris says, what are you doing? He says, I don't know, something weird with this. And he pushes the wall. Something clicks. The wall opens up like a door. It was a secret door. Derek found a secret door. Behind the secret door was another door with an unlocked padlock. So the padlock was unlocked. So Chris decided, he's like, okay, wait, before you touch the padlock, let's put our gloves on. Yeah, Chris and Derek, they carry around rubber gloves because just in case there's a crime scene, they put on the rubber gloves and they take off the padlock. Chris and Derek both have their guns drawn, just in case. So they got the second door open, and they look down the stairs, and they see a shoe at the bottom of the stairs. And a smell of death hit them both in the face. They told me that they said that if you ever smelled death, you know exactly what it smells like. Derek said, okay, let's get out of here. Chris said, yes, let's go call for backup and tell Francis to sit in the car. So that's when Francis and Derek both came out. They told me to sit my ass in the car. I did, and all that stuff happened. So when the investigators came and the other detectives came and the cops came, they all went back in the house. Derek and Chris took the lead. Derek and Chris had their guns drawn going down the basement steps. When they get down there, it's pitch black. So they're shining a light down in the basement steps. They're looking around. Now here where it gets spooky as hell. So Derek shines the light in the corner. He jumps a little bit because it scared him. And in the corner is 3 people sitting crisscross with their legs crossed and hunched over in a circle. So it's 3 people. And in the middle, so Derek starts walking over to, so Derek, Chris, there's shining lights all over the place. They start walking over. They got their flashlight. In the middle of these 3 people, a Ouija board. All 3 people are dead. They're looking around. They're like, okay, there's signs of, each one of them had a knife, and each one of them, their necks were slit. They slit their own throats in a circle. And the reason I say circle, there was a 4th person there. Because they noticed that all 3 people were holding their wallets, like gripping it with a death grip, and had their knife in other hand. So they was like hunched over, like it was hunched over with a knife in one hand, their wallets in the other. There was clearly 4 people sitting in a circle because there was a wallet there and a knife there. So crime scene investigators come down. They're looking at it. They're taking pictures. Derek and Chris are giving reports. They're looking all over. They're able to get the somebody with a high-powered light came in and shined it all the way through. They said also the crime scene investigators noticed something about the bodies. All the bodies were covered in ash. Seriously, they were covered in ash. Their clothes were mildewed because the blood. They were sitting in water. There was like water, a puddle of water, which they didn't know how water got down there. So it was very damp, watery, and mildewy down there. So everything I was saying to Randonautica, it took me to a place that had mildew and ash and all the nastiness. So the bodies had mildew on it, ash. Clearly it was 4 people, but there was only 3 bodies. They were looking for the 4th person. They look in the wallet of the fourth person. This is what Derek and Chris told me. When they opened the wallet, the ID on the wall, like it was someone's picture, but didn't look very human like. And the name and the birth date for the person just said, basically just said 666. Yeah, on the birth date. Like the actual ID said born 666. Don't know how someone can be born that way, but apparently that person was. The ID picture looked like it was someone who took a fake picture of a demon. And so Derek placed placed that while in a evidence bag. They placed the knives in the evidence bag. They was able to remove the bodies and all that stuff. So a couple days later, so Derek, and that's when Derek and Chris, they're no longer needed at the crime scene. They were helping a little. They go back upstairs. They come out and they tell me, okay, they tell me everything about the dead bodies, about the Ouija board in the middle, about the ash all over the place, and has smelled of mildew and rot. Ugh, all the gross stuff. I said, okay, so they sent me home. They did stay for a little bit. They did tell me afterwards. So a couple days go by, they tell me. So that the house that I went to has no records at all. Like no one owns it. The city didn't, the county didn't even know that house was there. That house was built there at all. Like no one knew that house existed until I found it that day. That's what Derek. So Derek came over to my house. Chris was at work. Derek came. He's like, look, that house was abandoned. No one knew that house was there. It wasn't registered with anything. No tax records. No nothing. That house was. It's like that house just appeared out of nowhere one day. When I played Randonautica. That's creepy to me. So, he said, well, I can't really tell you all about the investigation. We have no, I can't tell you all about I was like, you have no lead, don't you? He said, well, I can't tell you that, but you know what? Since you guessed it, yeah, we have no leads. Derek told me they had no leads, no nothing. And that kind of scared me. I was like, so who's the fourth person who apparently didn't slit their throat or something? They was like, we don't know. I said, okay, they didn't know. So Derek just told me just forget about it. Let the investigators handle it. Right now, the case is he basically just told me the case is just a cold case right now. They have no idea what's going on. So I did forget about it eventually. So a couple months go by. It is now July 5th, 2021. So July 5th, 2021. So the day before, on July 4th, remember when I played the game? So I got another day off. I got July 4th and July 5th off of work. Like in November, I had November 4th and November 5th off from work. So July 4th, I was hanging out with Derek. So on July 4th, I was hanging out with Derek and Francis. And, we just got done celebrating July 4th, eating hot dogs. So all three of us decided to go drinking. Not drink a lot, but go get a couple shots. So we stay up. We stay up a little longer. Until July 5th, it's 1 o'clock. It's about to hit 1 o'clock in the morning. We all going back to the car. My car, I'm driving. I'm the I can't say that word. I'm the person who has to drive. Designated driver. You know what? I'm the person who drives. So I'm driving. Derek is in the passenger side and Chris is in the back seat. Derek says something stupid. Yeah, Derek says something stupid. He said, hey, remember that house? Y'all want to go see it? Chris was like, yeah, let's go see it. And I'm thinking, didn't y'all make fun of me for going to go see something spooky? He was like, look, you're a civilian. We're detectives, okay? We know what we're doing. We're going back to the house. So I made a U-turn because I remember where it was because it scared the hell out of me that I found a house with dead bodies in it. So we get to the house. We're pulling up to the dirt road. It is dark. Okay, it is pitch black out there. Luckily for me, we all have cell phone flashlights looking for us. So we get up to the clearing where it was because my headlights, I got very bright headlights on my car for some reason. I can see the clearing where the house was. You're probably thinking was. Yes. We get up to the spot. Derek says, where the hell is the house? And I look around. I'm like, the house should be right there. It was gone. It was completely gone. That house disappeared. Like it didn't sink into the ground. Nothing. It was like it was never there to begin with. This is when Chris decides to do something that white people were doing in horror movies. He decided to go up to the actual spot where the house was. And I said, well, look who's acting right. Look who's acting like a white person in a horror movie right now. And Christopher told me to shut up. He was like, shut up. He was, I want to go see. So Christopher goes up there. We're still, me and Francis, me and Derek, sorry I got the name wrong. So me and Derek get out the car and we're still standing at the doors and we see Chris walking up to the spot where the house was. And he stands there. And he's just standing there. And we say, hey Chris, let's go home. Let's go. Like Christopher, Chrissy. We just kept calling him different Chris names. And then finally he jumps a little bit. We see him like jerk back a little bit. And he turns around, he's like, oh shit. We're like, what? My nose is bleeding. So Chris his nose is bleeding for some reason. So Christopher comes back. I know I keep calling him Chris or Christopher. It doesn't matter. Like people always shorten the name. So Chris comes back walking to the car. His nose is bleeding. He gets into the back seat. He's like, oh man, I got a headache. Yeah, let's go. Take me home. So I take Chris home and then I take Derek home and I go home and I go to sleep. I wake up to my doorbell ringing off the hook and my cell phone's open door is Derek. He was like, look, we got to go to the hospital right now. I was calling you. You weren't answering. So I was like, what's wrong? Look, we got to go to the hospital right now. So we go to the hospital. Derek's wife and his kids are there. I mean, not Derek. Chris' wife and his kids are at the hospital. And so on the way to the hospital, I asked Derek what's going on. He was like, I don't know. Chris' wife called me, said you have to get to the hospital right now. Chris is in critical condition. And I'm thinking, why is Chris in critical condition? What the hell's going on with Chris? So we get to the hospital. His wife tells us that when we dropped Chris off at the house, Chris went inside. He sat on the bed. Chris started mumbling to himself, saying, this is what his wife said. This is what Chris's wife said. He started saying, this is what you get. 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 And then Chris falls over and starts having a seizure. Chris' wife calls 911. They get him to the hospital. The doctor's like, okay, what was going on? Chris' wife tells the doctor. He just kept saying, this is what you get. This is what you get. This is what you get. Over and over. And then he started shaking and foaming at the mouth, and I knew it was a seizure. That's when everything started going down. Chris had bleeding in the brain. That's why his nose started bleeding a little bit. His brain was bleeding and swelling. Basically, his brain was being crushed by his own blood in his head. That would cause a seizure. They was able to stop it, and they were able to fix him. But he was in critical condition, and he was in a medical he was in a medical coma for like a good 2 weeks. So 2 weeks goes past, and we're still visiting. I'm still visiting him. Um, Chris's wife doesn't like me anymore because technically I did take him back to the house where he was, and she found out that I took him back to the spooky house because because Chris tells his wife everything about all his cases and stuff, and she blames me that I took him back to a spooky house with a Ouija board, and she said it's my fault that he had a seizure and almost died and had bleeding in the brain. So Chris finally wakes up. Now I didn't see him when he woke up. I saw him a couple days later, when he was coming home. So basically, I saw him. I went over to his house. He was sitting on the couch. His kids were next to him. Well, his kid. He had his one kid. Kids. So Chris. So Derek was already there. Derek went to work. So I went inside. Um, I sit in a lazy boy across from Chris. Chris is not saying anything. He just looks at me with this weird look. He was like, so I almost died. And it was a weird look, like he was like he was relieved to see me or something. Like, there's a weird look that he gave me. I still remember the look. It was weird. And Chris looks at me. And then he says, now I said, what the hell happened? What your wife told me, said this is what you get. He was like, the last thing I remember was someone whispering in my ear and telling me you shouldn't have came back, and this is what you get. And that's it. He doesn't remember the seizure. I don't think most people remember seizure, but he doesn't remember the nosebleed. He just remembered the voice telling him, you shouldn't have came back, and this is what you get. And I said, that's weird. Was it a demon or something? He's like, I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to ever think about that again. I don't ever want to go to that house, to that field again. I don't want to ever see anything dealing with that thing again. And he looks at me. He looks at me again with another weird look and says, maybe, he's like, maybe, he looks at me and looks down. He says, well, maybe Kathy will forgive you. I look at Derek. I look at Chris. I look at Chris. I said, Kathy? Who the fuck is Kathy? He was like, yeah, you. He was like, Kathy. Maybe she'll forgive you. I have no idea who the hell Kathy is at all. And he says, I said, well, Chris, I'm gonna talk to you later. He's like, yeah, I'm getting tired. And so here's the thing. A couple years goes past. So I did finally, so years goes past. It is now 2024. All that stuff is behind us. One night, I was driving. And I was looking at my phone. I accidentally T-boned somebody. I looked at my phone. I did the dumbest thing in the world. So 2024, look at my phone. And because here's the thing, the reason I look at my phone, it's late 2024. You know what? You want to know what date it is in 2024? December 31st, 2024. And right at 12 on 2025, I T-boned somebody. I hit someone really hard with my car. They get out. You want to know what their name was? Kathy. I didn't think about it at first. She walks up to me, and here's the thing. She said, "Oh, no need to call the insurance. No need to call that." I was like, "Okay, but we just got into an accident. I messed up your back end." She said, "That's okay." And she looked at me, the same look that Chris looked at me. And she said, "Don't worry. We will always watch you." I'm thinking, okay, am I drunk or going crazy? Here's the thing. I blinked. Kathy said, "We'll always be watching." This is a whole full sentence. I didn't say all of it. Kathy looked at me and said, "We're always watching you, and I forgive you." And I blinked, and she was gone. Her car was gone, and my car was fine. I was like, what the? So I don't know what the hell was happening in my life. I don't know why this weird thing kept having on the 4th and the 5th of everything. The 4th and the 5th, the 4th and the 5th, the 4th and the 5th. Chris's brain bleed, the 4th and the 5th, technically. Going to the house, the 4th and the 5th. And then the last thing, 2024, going on to 2025. Some girl named Kathy, who I hit or didn't hit, because I blinked. You know what? I just want to forget about it, to be honest. But I wanted to tell y'all about this story because it was weird. She said, "We'll always be watching, and I forgive you." I don't know how that connects to a damn Ouija board of 3 people who killed themselves. I don't know how that has to do with a house. Maybe I was just high, because I did smoke. I do like to smoke a little bit of weed every December 31st when the new year. But I like to smoke. I like to bring in the new year with a good old marijuana. But yeah, it's just weird. All this stuff is weird. I can't explain it. I don't know what Kathy has to do with the Ouija board suicide that happened in that basement, which I never found out because Chris and Derek never told me about the investigation. They just said the sheriff department and stuff declared the investigators declared the crime scene as a suicide pact, and someone chickened out and didn't do it. So the case is closed. I did find out later that they did close the case. It just ruled a suicide. So the 3 people who killed themselves around a Ouija board has been closed, and they're not really looking for the 4th person. They're not looking for the 4th person because they just say it's closed. That's it. So I never got a closure of the 3 people who committed suicide in the basement around a Ouija board. Why did they do it? And why were they covered in ash? I don't know who Kathy is. It's just all weird. And that's going to do it for this story. I hope you enjoyed it, because I'm still confused by it. And maybe you can explain to me, why was there 3 people in the basement surrounded by a Ouija board who took themselves out? Why is Kathy watching over me and forgiving me? Was Kathy the 4th person? She doesn't want to hurt me? I don't know. Explain to me in the comments down below. And thanks for watching this video. And I'll be back for another story later. Bye. Did you enjoy that story? Well, I hope you did. Leave a like and subscribe for more. I've been your host, Sugerface Cheesymelt. See you later. Bye.